More on this and much more. The chairman of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, Republican Congressman Michael McCaul. Mr. Chairman, thanks for coming in. I want to ask you about Wuhan, about this new reporting. But first, let's talk about Ukraine. The president's national security advisor said on CNN yesterday that if China provides lethal support to Russia, the White House has made clear privately what the consequences would be. Do you know what the consequences would be?
I don't, but they should be very stern, strong consequences. We're talking about now something going from an alliance, which was an alliance buying energy, to now potentially putting not only drones, but other lethal weapons into the Ukraine conflict. This crosses a red line in my judgment, and I think all options should be on the table. I think sanctions would be an obvious, easy one. But I would urge the administration to put all the options on there. This is a serious departure from where we've been in this conflict. I've been worried about this for quite some time because China has been so supportive of Russia in Ukraine.
Mr. Chairman, we've heard, consequences will be coming. Sanctions, of course, as you mentioned, is the first thing that comes to mind. But when you call it a red line, this seems to be a moment if China does decide to provide these weapons. But you have to also take into consideration you're dealing with Russia and you're dealing with China. What could the consequences be beyond sanctions that you think would be appropriate?
Yeah, well, again, I think cutting off semiconductor chips would really bring both China and Russia to their knees. They wouldn't be able to manufacture these arms equipment. And I think that would be a very wise first sanction to be looking at, but making sure we enforce them and enforce secondary sanctions, on them. Beyond that, you're talking about a military conflict. I don't think anybody right now wants to get into a full-fledged war with China and Russia, but it just reminds the American people who may think that communist China is bad, but somehow Putin and Russia get a pass. I think it reminds the American people they were in this together, and they have been since day one, since the Olympics. And in fact, in 2017, Chairman Xi called Putin his best friend. So the idea that they're not in this together is just a wrong assessment of the situation. We have 4 nation adversary states now: Russia, China, Iran is in there as well, and North Korea. These 4 are all lined up against the West and freedom and democracy. And that's how I see now what has become a struggle for the global balance of power.
And with that in mind, let me ask you this. President Biden now says that he's ruling out for now sending F-16s to Ukraine. Jake Sullivan reinforced that on CNN, speaking to Dana Bash, saying that it's a question for a later time, is how he put it to Dana. Why do you think Biden's a no on sending F-16s for now?
It's always a question for later. They've dragged this thing out such that we've been in this thing for a year, and it didn't have to be this way. They say as long as it takes, but given the right weapon systems, it shouldn't have to take that long. And what do I mean by that? They waited on Stingers, then Javelins, then the short-range artillery, HIMARS. And now the longer-range artillery that could reach the Iranian drones in Crimea are being held back because, it's too provocative. It could escalate. It uses the same delivery system as a HIMARS, by the way. And then the aviation, whether it's F-16 or any other aviation equipment that Ukraine desperately needs, could be a real game changer at a critical time in this conflict when the Russians are actually going on the offensive right now as I speak. This is a time we need to arm Ukraine to the fullest, and many high-level generals have told me this privately, that they would wish the administration would move forward on this and not backwards. I just got back from the region. I saw the Ukrainians being trained on the Leopard tanks and the Abrams tanks that will go into theater soon, at least the Leopards within 2 weeks, that I hope will have a great role in this counteroffensive. But in the meantime, they need more than just that. And we can do that if we had the will to do it.
Your office has said that you plan to hold a hearing or hearings this spring on Russia's alleged war crimes. I heard that with great interest as I've been following, we've all been following the thousands of alleged war crimes that have been committed by Russia in Ukraine. What do you hope comes from it?
I, I just want the American people to see what I've seen. I don't think they have. I just got back from Bucha with the prosecutor general, with the mayor of Bucha. I met with victims whose loved ones were killed, civilians killed in cold blood, hands tied behind their back, executed, children who were burned alive, people buried really in shallow graves with their hands sticking out of the ground. Horrific stuff. Mobile crematoriums, taking children from villages and exporting them to Russia, where they're then indoctrinated in violation of the Geneva Convention. All these crimes against humanity, and I would argue in some cases genocide, are in fact taking place, and the American people haven't seen it. I think they need to understand what's at stake in Ukraine and why this is so important, that we are facing evil in Ukraine, and evil must be fought and destroyed, and that is Putin when he's committing these crimes. And Kate, we've only scratched the surface here. Once Mariupol, that's the town more to the south, once we get in there and it's liberated, then we find out what happened there. I think it's going to be far worse than what I saw just a couple of days ago in Bucha.
Which is terrifying to think that that's scratching the surface. Finally, on this new intelligence report from the Department of Energy that Natasha Bertrand was talking about, saying that most likely, though with low confidence, the COVID pandemic started from an accidental lab leak in China. I know that this is something you've been talking about for some time. You agree with that assessment. You said last night that China needs to be held accountable for this. How, Mr. Chairman?
Well, first of all, we need to stop using NIH dollars in experiments in Wuhan at this lab. And I think the people involved in this, in the genetic modification or gain of function, if you will, should be held accountable for what they did, which possibly could have been done with U.S. taxpayer dollars. My report came out over a year ago, the origins of COVID-19, and we found from a preponderance of the evidence it did happen. You know, it's interesting. We translated into Mandarin and got it through the Chinese firewall into mainland China. It went viral because they're most concerned about their own people knowing the truth about what is happening. And then I had the foreign minister of China publicly denouncing me in my report. I think they know what happened, and it started all that September before the February announcement that it was international. And I do believe because it was at a level 2 facility, not level 4. Level 2 is very low-grade security, that it did leak out as they were trying to create this monster in the virus with an eye towards creating a vaccine.
How should the United States respond? How should they be held accountable?
I think there are several ways. You can go back to sanctions. You can go back to holding them with reparations for killing millions of people across the world. We certainly need to cut off any ties between the United States and this type of research in China, which led to the problem in the first place. And I think some people need to be held accountable, whether that be in a civil context or criminal liability context. What they did resulted in unleashing, again, a monster out of a tube, a virus out of this experiment that went around the world and killed millions of people for the last several years. I think somebody needs to be held accountable for that.
Mr. Chairman.